What's up, everybody? Good evening. Welcome, dissidents, to our Sunday night edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular.
Hello.
All right, everybody. We have a full show coming at you this evening.
I just want to say before we get started, I denounce anti-Semitism in all its forms,
right.
And I stand in solidarity with the Jewish people.
There you go. You've read your disclaimer.
That's my disclaimer.
So what? Are you in solidarity with me?
Well, half of you.
Half of me.
The other half, not so much.
Right. Yeah.
The other half. It must be very confusing to be like half the oppressor and half the oppressed. How do you deal with that?
Well, I mean, it depends on the conversation, right? It depends on the context.
Yeah. Fair enough.
I mean, it really depends who you're talking to and what you're talking about.
It's one of my favorite Groucho Marx stories.
Half of me feels like I own show business. The other half feels like I'll never be able to break into show business.
Chevy Chase.
Chase time, managed it. Half of me feels at home in this suburban neighborhood, and the other half doesn't. So it depends on the other time. Yeah. It depends on what you're thinking about.
I mean, you're very tall, so they probably usually accept you.
Tall
they don't expect Jews to be that tall.
Well, no, right. Tall, you blend in as a Gentile when you're tall.
Blend in,
but tall is actually not an asset in show business. A lot of actors, a lot of famous movie stars are actually short. And the reason they're short is because they're similar height to women. So when you have to do a romance scene and you have to kiss a woman, you're on the same vertical plane, right? If you're tall, sometimes they'll put a woman on an apple cart for that close-up, the kiss scene, so that you're not a foot above her having a, you know what I mean? So actually, height can be a liability in the movie business if you're an actor. A lot of the famous actors are small.
You know what? You just explained that to me, because like all these guys like Tom Cruise are very famous.
They're short,
like tiny little guys.
Sean Penn, small, right? A lot of these movie stars are small,
right?
That's why.
Right, because they don't want to have to carry the box over.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. Exactly. And for the romance.
So basically, it's because of lazy schleppers.
Well, it's easier to frame a romance scene. It's easier to frame the kiss shot when they're about the same height. If the man's a foot taller than the woman, it doesn't look right on screen, right?
So you're saying
thing. Sometimes what looks okay in real life doesn't look okay in that 16 by 9 box.
So you're saying I could still pursue my dream of being a romantic lead?
Of course. What are you, 5'6"?
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right.
No problem there.
Maybe I should go for it.
Yeah. Exactly. I suggest you do. By the way, folks, we are on Rumble tonight. This is our inaugural Rumble stream. So we're obviously coming at you on YouTube, but we're also on Rumble as well. We were able to cross that 100 subscriber threshold to gain live streaming privileges on the Rumble platform. So we thank you guys over at Rumble for having us, and we hope everybody has a good time. Holly says we made Rumble. Yes, we did. We did.
Woo!
All right, so there's a big announcement coming up on Tuesday night from the Lord God himself, Donald Trump. It looks like he is still set to announce his candidacy for president on Tuesday night. We are going to do our best to cover that. I'm pretty sure we'll be able to. We just have to make sure we find a live stream that we are allowed to simulcast, which I think we should. So we'll have some live reaction to that. That should be really fun. Last Tuesday was midterm watch party. That day I got a flu shot, so I couldn't drink too much. On Tuesday, I don't have any shots or vaccinations planned, so I will bust out the whiskey for that announcement. That should be fun. So join us on Tuesday night. But unfortunately for Trump, his announcement comes at a time when he is very, very quickly losing his status as the leader of the Republican Party, as we sensed might happen after the midterms. Well, the first midterm polling data is out, and YouGov did this survey in the 3 days after the midterms. Sorry about that. Who would you rather see as the Republican nominee for president in 2024? In total, Ron DeSantis beats Trump by 7 points already, 42-35, with 10 answering neither and 13 answering not sure. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. Among people who say they are strong Republicans, it's about even, Trump with a 2-point lead. Are not very strong Republicans, DeSantis has a 7-point lead. In independents who lean towards the Republican Party, look at that DeSantis number, 45 to 21. Now, that's interesting because what that tells you is that the diehard Republicans still favor Trump very, very slightly, but they favor Trump for now. The not very strong Republicans...
But that's got to be within the margin of error. I mean, that's basically a dead heat.
It is. And look, whether it is or not, nobody votes for another year. So that's a place where if you're DeSantis, you're pretty happy starting at that point, right? Because you thought you were going to be starting Trump 50, DeSantis 20.
Right.
Instead, you're starting at a dead heat, right? But look, where elections are won and lost are in the not very strong partisan or the independents who lean a certain way. And if you look at DeSantis putting up those kinds of numbers before the campaign even starts, that tells you right there, that you're going to have a dogfight on your hands. And it puts a certain pressure on Trump on Tuesday night to see what he's going to do, how he's going to come out. You know, he was expecting his party to clean up in the midterms, and he would come out, and it would be a big party. All right, we buried the Democrats. We're in control. Now here comes the king. The king is back. But we're
gonna have in one of my classes in Yale that I sat through. I think they called this a restoration. It's gonna be the Trump restoration.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But that's not the vibe that's gonna be there. That's not the vibe that we're gonna see. It's gonna be very different. It's gonna be very interesting to see how this shakes. And Russell wanted to edit together a montage of him predicting that DeSantis was going to be the next president because he feels a victory lap is in order, and I can't say he's wrong. So far, this poll certainly indicates that.
It was my understanding that was going to be the actual subject of this piece. My powers of prediction, my incredible, staggering, heartbreaking genius. You know, my delicate genius.
Well, you're 50% of the show, so you can steer it any way you want.
Yeah, no, I was calling this, and back when everyone was laughing at me. Oh no, Trump's got it. Even this one was telling me, oh no, I don't think Trump. You know, the base isn't going to move away from Trump.
By this one, you mean me?
I mean you.
You're gesturing at me.
Even you. Even this one. Everyone doubted me, and I'm telling you, Ron DeSantis, man, Ron DeSantis. I always felt the Trump act was going to wear thin. And it goes back to Republicans like to win. I didn't think Trump was going to really be able to make a credible case that he's the guy. They might have found it kind of funny to make him the president. I mean, but a brick through the window only goes so far. I felt that in the end, they're going to want an actual Republican president this time, one who can actually govern and get things done for them. And that's Ron DeSantis can more credibly make that case.
Yeah, I mean, look, it certainly looks like he is very well positioned at this point. And, you know, the thing that Trump did was he injected himself into these midterms when he didn't have to, right?
Yep.
When you're the best team in football, what happens? You get a bye week, first week of the postseason. You don't have to play. It's to your advantage to not have to play in a single elimination tournament kind of game situation.
Right.
Well, that's what politics is. Politics is a single elimination tournament. It's win or go home, right? I mean, you have to win in order to advance. You don't get a loss. And so no matter what, no matter how big you are, no matter, what kind of weight you think you carry in this business, we can all learn a little something.
You're only as good as your last envelope. You know that.
You're only as good as your last envelope. Trump's last envelope, light on senators. Hey, this envelope got no senator. There's no senators in here. There's no governors in here.
Your House candidates perform like fucking shit.
You got one fucking governor in here and no senators. What the fuck is that, Donnie?
You got on guts. You
got
gave us
on guts.
fucking on guts.
Exactly.
Yeah, Trump. I think he's done, man. You know, he'll go down swinging and giving everyone dumb nicknames. But just Ron DeSanctimonious, that tells you right there, man. He's out of steam. It's not a nickname that sticks. Low energy Jeb Bush, that sticks. Little Marco, that sticks. Ron DeSanctimonious, what are you talking about? His cultural positions are in line with your base. So what are you talking about? He's sanctimonious about what exactly? So
right, he's sanctimonious about the same things that he's supposed to be sanctimonious about, according to them.
So what does that mean? What does that mean? So yeah, man, I think he's done. And as I've said on the show, they'll whack him before they'll let him be the president again. So everything else I'm saying aside, the deep state will not let it happen. They will not let Donald Trump be the president. And in regards to the deep state, DeSantis is actually pretty hawkish, so they're not really going to have a problem with him.
Yeah, right. I mean, exactly. He will go along with what they need him to go along on. And it's funny. My mother-in-law wanted me to put MSNBC on for her today before we took our kids out for a walk. So I watched like 30 seconds of it, and sure enough, who was on there? I think it was Chuck Todd interviewing Rick Wilson, the Lincoln Project sort of like racketeer, the guy who raised all that money to make a documentary that he never ended up making. He says, "Oh, don't worry, the base is going to go back." So
it's
to
like
Trump.
Two of the dumbest people in politics talking to each other.
Well, the dumbest person in the media, Chuck Todd, and then what I got to admit is a fairly shrewd sleazebag.
Yeah. I'll give you that.
Good at getting money out of people.
He's a good con man.
Exactly.
A
con man. And he says, "Oh, don't worry. The Republicans are going to go back to Donald Trump. You just wait." And of course, the Lincoln Project needs the Republicans to go back to Donald Trump because that's their whole game. Like those Lincoln Project people, there are certain like neocon Republicans turned Democrat who are just not going to go back because there's just too much money in it for them to be an anti-Trump Democrat.
But yeah, now those are the real shills. Those are the real shills, man. Those are the grifters. Right. Those are the people who are like, man, I go back to the right. I'm just one more schmucky Republican. But if I go keep hanging out with these MSNBC people, there is nothing they love more than a Republican convert.
Right. They found their niche here. So like they would hope and they would put out there, just like a lot of the Democrats promoted the MAGA GOPers in primaries, like they would elevate Trump in a primary over like even a Marco Rubio, even someone who's right in their lane, just because they don't want to lose access to that sweet gig. Right. They have to keep the Lincoln Project going.
Right. Yeah, I agree. That's going to be sticky for them, though. Like, how do they justify not backing Ron DeSantis? Like, how do they justify that? I mean, I guess they'll find a way. But at that point, if you won't vote for Ron DeSantis, you're just a Democrat now. At that point, you're just a Democrat. You're not a Lincoln Project Republican. You're just a Democrat.
Right. Exactly. And that's what they are. That's really what they are now.
That's what they are. But if they don't go back, that's really giving away the game.
Sure. But at that point, they'll do the whole thing.
Like their whole appeal is that these are principled Republicans coming together with principled Democrats, which really means people with money who have who have an investment in the system, not getting changed in any meaningful way. That's what that really is.
Yeah. No, for sure. So speaking of the Republican primary and Republican Party infighting, this is a great segment. This is one of my favorite clips that we've seen.
Actually, grinning guys, they're brainstorming here before we move off this. Ron Deceiver, it's better. It's better than what he's going with.
DeSanctimonious. Yeah, DeSanctimonious has no rhythm.
Ron DeSantis, that's a little crude even for Trump.
I like just Ronnie D, but that's not derogatory. I think Ronnie D is good. We should call him Ronnie D.
Center. Nah, that's going to make him sound like a heavy metal guitarist.
Everybody's making the same mistake that Trump is making, which is they're trying to make DeSantis into something clever. Forget about DeSantis. Just go with Ron. Something Ron. You have to find an adjective about him, right?
Right.
Slimy Ron, sleazy Ron, slippery Ron.
Right,
You know.
but it's got to be connected to something.
That's what I mean. It's got to be good. None of those were good. I'm just saying, like, that's what it would have to be. It's something Ron. That whole DeSantis thing, trying to make something out of that's not going to work.
Right.
It's not rhythmic. It's just not. It's not going to work.
Also, this reinforces my argument for DeSantis. There's nothing really to attack him on from the right. Like, I mean, unless you're going to go full into the anti-war element, which I don't think Trump will go that deep into it. Like, that was easier to pull with, like, somebody named Bush, because you're talking about a war in retrospect. He never really had to challenge Republicans on support for a war that's ongoing. Will he really go there? Will he really do that? And is that even going to work for him? So he doesn't really have an opening. Like, what would you nickname him that has anything to do with reality? These bullying nicknames, that's the key. They have to be connected to something that's actually going on.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And, you know, Lion Ted, that was see, now that actually, not just because you gave us $5, but that is so far my favorite of the DeSantis puns.
Little Ronnie, that's not going to work. Ron Disingenuous, Trump wouldn't know how to pronounce that. Ron de Santa Claus, he's coming for your kids this Christmas. It's too complicated for a one-liner. Ron de Satan, that's a left kind of a thing to call him that.
Ron DeSantis, that's pretty good. I like that.
That's not bad.
Oh, why don't we have a super chat contest? You attach all these ideas to some super chats, and then we will crown a winner.
Ron DeCon, that's all right.
Yeah, Ron DeCon is not bad. But again,
Ron to War on Christmas. All right, we're gonna send all these to the Trump campaign, and whichever one he uses, you win a spot on his team.
I like Ron to War on Christmas. That's pretty good. I like that. That's interesting.
Anise rings in with Ron Disloyal. Anise, man, we're not gonna hit you up for no money, man. We know that cat's going hungry as it is.
Ron, yeah. See, oh wow, we got a lot of suggestions here. All right.
Well, this proves something we've always known. Our listeners are a lot smarter than anybody working for Donald Trump.
See, this is where you go. High estrogen Ron. I like that, Ricardo. That's good. But you don't try and work with DeSantis. Just come up with something and then just put Ron at the end. That is, I think, where you got to go with this. High estrogen Ron is good.
That's smart. That's smart. Yeah. Go in that direction. Undercut his anti-trans stance.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Oh, we got some Twitchers in here today. I don't know what's going on, but with our Twitch audience seems to be coming in here. So that's great. Excellent. All right. Speaking of Republican Party primaries and Republican Party infighting, this was a really great clip. I really enjoyed this. And these are two people who we don't hear from a lot on the left side of the indie media world. But I think this is really worth looking into because I think this is both funny and really provides some firsthand insight into these sort of like philosophical underpinnings of the MAGA movement and sort of kind of hints at where they might have to go in order to bridge MAGA with non-MAGA and win in 2024, right? So I'm talking about Tim Pool and Milo Yiannopoulos. Milo Yiannopoulos, the canceled troll who in 2016 made a huge name for himself and all this money by just bombastically putting himself out there as like the gay MAGA guy. He put on that function in D.C. called the Deplorable, where he had a party with all the alt-right sort of, obnoxious Trump media people. And so he ended up going too far and getting canceled. He got his book deal canceled. He got thrown off of social media, thrown off of all the platforms. I think he even lost the contract with Breitbart, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not 100% sure about that. But
yeah, well, you when you advocate pedophilia, that's over the line for everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
There just is no niche for you at that point.
Yeah, at that point, right. At that point, it's hard to get, it's hard to keep a gig anywhere at that point. And so
even McDonald's is going to let you go.
Exactly. He's been out of the spotlight for a number of years now, but he appeared on the Tim Pool show to discuss, amongst certain other topics, the midterms, how they went for the GOP versus how they were supposed to go, and what the takeaways from that should be. So let's have a listen.
People used to be engaged in politics because they wanted to get a glimpse of a better world, but that's the washing powder version of politics. I think people are well into bitterness. I think people want to see the bad guys bleed. I think that people want to see the bloodbath that you're talking about comes not from a desire to reimagine the world in a better way, because I think people are losing hope in that. I think people want to see their antagonists suffer.
I agree. I agree.
And the reason for the Republican frustration is that they were expecting a rare moment of catharsis, which is not granted often to people with right of center politics, a moment in which they could reassure themselves that sometimes justice is done, that the universe is capable of delivering a true justice where it is warranted, and they were robbed of that. So what was stolen from them was not some kind of washing powder commercial glimpse of a better future. What was stolen from them was revenge. Yeah. Because these people don't feel like they've been out of power, and that's a shame. They feel like they articulate their feelings now in very religious terms, and they talk about their enemies in terms of demons, devils, and Satan, and the way in which they express themselves. I think the sunk emotional cost that they had attached to the midterms as a moment when they could reassure themselves that maybe there was, maybe there was still some glimmer of.
But they won.
Well, not really.
But they won what they needed, the House.
Okay, so they won what they needed, the House. So there you have it, and we are going to play the rest of this in a second. But there you have it straight from the horse's mouth, because this guy was the troll, the head troll of the MAGA movement. And he's telling you right now, what we want is to own the libs. This movement is about owning the libs. They wanted catharsis, right? Mm-hmm. And they didn't get it. Therefore, it was a failure. Let me play a little bit more, and then we'll stop it one more time.
No,
what could they have done better? What would they have done?
It was a bog standard or slightly unimpressive midterm in which the usual swing occurred. That is not what Republicans were expecting.
Right. They
wanted not what they were hoping
victory.
for. That's not a victory. When something happens that always happens, that happens whether you campaign or not, that happens whether you do anything or not, that's not a victory. That's people perceive that as a kind of as a sort of almost like a weather event, It's just part of the natural cycle of things. Yeah. There was no victory because there was nothing above and beyond what the ordinary course of a midterm election.
I understand what you're saying. That they needed something that proved something symbolic and something of meaning.
They just wanted the people who they feel are tearing the fabric of their civilization apart, doing all kinds of things that we'll talk about in the to suffer. They wanted to see the I forget what the Conan quote is. I haven't seen it for 25 years, but they wanted that. Whatever the first bit is, the lamentations of their women. They wanted shrieking. They wanted the 2016 energy.
Right.
They wanted to see liberals panic.
But that's nebulous in the sense that
it's atavistic.
No. Look,
it's atavistic. It's fundamental.
Listen.
There you go. No, it's not nebulous. It's fundamental. This is what's so great about this clip, is that you have this disgraced, canceled troll who now has nothing to lose. He has no attachment to the movement anymore, right? Now he's just free to say what he wants. And now you have Tim Pool, who's trying to make some sort of high-minded argument about, well, no, we didn't actually lose, right? That this sort of sentiment about owning the libs and causing our enemies pain, that's all nebulous. And she's like, no, that's not nebulous. That is essential. That is all we want. And he's the guy who would know because he was in that space in 2016. He knows, no, this is all about making liberals cry. That's all this is really about. And what he gets to in this next moment is that they are really willing to take themselves down in order to do that. Like they are, like this movement, that's why I call the Trump movement a certain death drive, because it is people who want to destroy and be destroyed. If they have to destroy themselves to destroy their enemy, they are willing to do that because, as Milo very rightly said, they've already given up hope that a better world is possible.
Right. Well, let me help him out with the quote he was looking for. What is best in life, Conan? To kill your enemies, to drive them before you, and to hear the lamentations of the women.
There you go. Yeah, excellent job. That's what they're.
By winning the House, there can now be inquiries, investigations.
Okay, this is so hilarious. This is where it gets really good. When Tim Pool tries to, because Tim Pool still has a show. He's got 1.4 million subscribers. He has to convince his audience that, no, it's not so bad. There's still a future here.
We
We're
meant
on
to
track.
do that.
Right, we meant to do this. Everything's fine. Don't worry about it. Watch Tim Pool try and sort of gin up some optimism in the audience, and him just completely shut it down.
So they're women. They wanted shrieking. They wanted the 2016 energy.
Right.
They wanted to see liberals panic.
But that's nebulous in the sense that by taking
it's atavistic.
No. Look,
it's atavistic. It's
but
fundamental.
Listen. By winning the House, there can now be inquiries, investigations.
Nobody cares about winning the House.
Right. So listen.
Nobody cares about winning the House. The
So
entire
what
Republican
Winning
base
the House, you nerd. This isn't about governing. This isn't about doing anything. This is about making liberals cry. That's all this is about. They're not crying, which means we're not happy. Nobody cares about winning
Now,
the House.
for them
the
to
fact
get
that elections are
the
theater.
retribution, for them to feel the satisfaction is simply their choice. They got what they could get. Now, I suppose they wanted to see
they didn't
a
want to-
tremendous
no,
landslide victory.
They didn't get what they could
which
get.
wouldn't have changed anything procedurally. It would have felt good.
No.
Well, I would just
they
add that
didn't get what they could get. They rightly intuit that they were robbed of this victory by people who should have had their backs.
But what's the victory? What does victory look like?
They wanted to see their enemmies humiliated.
Right.
And they didn't.
And the only reason
didn't-
they're not being humiliated is because Republicans are acting like they lost.
No.
No. I like that. That I like so much. Congratulations, Milo Yiannopoulos. You have made our soundboard.
No.
That's going to be
No.
No. Whenever he says somebody we don't agree with, no. I mean, he articulates it right there.
It joins the vanguards. Hey.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Depending on the exigencies of the moment.
Yeah, it's the more British version of hey. Right. Yeah. No. And then Milo goes on to say, and we were going to play more than that, but he goes on to say, as some Republicans have, that party leadership underfunded a lot of the MAGA candidates, insinuating a certain sabotage from McConnell. And if you notice, McConnell did say over the summer, well, candidate quality is going to be a factor. It's going to hurt us, right? So what some people think, and look, they may be right. When you think about it, it kind of does make sense that maybe party leadership felt, hey, if the Republicans run the table with these Trump candidates, we're going to be stuck with Trump through 2024. If we sabotage them and they lose, then Biden's approval ratings are still not going to go anywhere. The economy's still going to be shit in 2 years. It's still going to be ripe for us to win in 2 years. Like, we're still going to have conditions in our favor.
Right.
So maybe if we just tank this, use this defeat to get rid of Trump, then we can win in 2024 the way we want to win, which is without Trump. I mean, who knows? That could be the case. So I'm not saying they're wrong about that. To me, the theory makes sense. But listen, as two Bernie Sanders supporters, believe us, we know what it's like to be fucked over by party leadership. At the end of the day, man, you got to win. If you can't win, it means you can't win, whether it's fair or not. Bernie lost twice. It was nowhere near fair. But you know what? He couldn't make it. And so whether it's fair or not, you have to look at the field now and say, Trump can't make it. This
The truth
defeat
is,
was too crushing.
I
for
could
him.
not defeat my good friend
Yeah, right, Joe.
Joe Biden,
Right.
who would make a very good
Yeah,
president.
right, exactly.
There is no particularly good reason for you to decide to vote for me instead
Right.
of him, in fact. And yet I am still asking for your vote.
Yeah, and your donation, right? But look, whether it's fair or not, he can't win at this point. This defeat was too crushing. He could have taken the bye. He could have sat this out, say, hey, I'm going to let the process play out. I'm going to endorse our general election candidates, and we're going to think about 2024 when the time comes. He could have done that, in which case I think he'd be sitting pretty right now. That's not what he did. He chose to play the game when he could have chosen to sit out. And when you play, you have to win. There's
Well,
no
if he had
losing
sat
should
out
sell
and they had
in
lost,
politics.
he could have blamed it on the fact that he sat it out.
Right. Exactly.
You see, without Trump on the ticket, you don't win.
I mean,
You
look,
don't
he
win.
could do what Obama does. The reason Obama stays relevant within the Democratic Party is that he doesn't get involved in the intra-party fights, except behind the scenes to sandbag Sanders,
Except
obviously.
when
But
anything is going to happen to advance the cause of justice and prosperity.
right, but within the Democratic Party, that's extremely rare. So for the most part, he just sits it out and he waits until the fall, and 2 weeks before the vote, he goes out and he stumps for the candidates. That's how you play it if you're an ex-president, even if you want to run again. You don't put your thumb on it. You don't put yourself out there in a way that can backfire. And that's what Trump did, and it backfired massively. Massively. Joe Lombardo was the only Republican who unseated an incumbent. He won the Nevada governor's race. That's it. Aside from that, the Republicans did not knock off a single Democrat senator, a single Democrat governor. Despite 81% of Americans thinking the economy sucks and 73% of Americans being dissatisfied or angry at the state of the country, you knock off one governor, that's it, and no senators? Come on, man. You're out. You lost. That's it.
Well, Roe was the fucking worst thing that could have happened to the Republican Party. You know, they're the dog that caught the car. You know, they chased this car for 40 years. Now they caught it. Oops. What the fuck did you think was going to happen? What did you think was going to happen? All of the pro-life referendums and all those red states went down in flames. Nobody wants your fucking crazy anti-abortion shit. And now they're between a rock and a hard place. How are they going to hold on to these religious fanatics that Reagan sold the party to and have been their most loyal foot soldiers ever since? How are they going to moderate on abortion without losing those people? Because religious fanatics, you know, they can tell you to go fuck yourself and just walk away. I mean, they're religious fanatics. They're not motivated by lesser of two evils kind of logic.
Right. I mean, they're not going to let a presidential election get between them and God's kingdom in the afterlife. I mean, they're playing a longer game.
They don't want to be left behind in the rapture.
Right. Exactly. Right. Exactly. But that was just, I mean, that's just the honesty that comes from a guy who has nothing to lose anymore versus, I don't want to say the hucksterism of Tim Pool, but he's trying to sell his audience on a certain optimism that is just nowhere to be found in reality. And then you have fucking Milo.
Well, that's what a lot of the
just shutting him down point by point by point.
Yeah. A lot of the conservative commentators are doing it. The only one that I've seen who is being honest, I mentioned it a little bit on the live stream we did about the Senate, Paul Joseph Watson. The right wing has a term, the adjacent term to red-pilled is black-pilled. That means you've given into nihilism. You just don't believe anymore that any change is possible. That's what Milo is describing here. And that was Watson's explanation for this result, that the MAGA, the right wing, the Republican voters had been so black-pilled, and the public generally, that they just weren't gonna bother to really make any change. They just don't see any possibility. Now, of course, what he studiously avoided was, wow, Roe really fucked us. None of the conservative commentators want to talk about this.
Yeah.
It's like I said this from the time Roe dropped. They never were able to formulate a way to talk about this because nobody wants it. Not even their own people want it. So they tried to make being pro-choice an elite position. They tried to fall back on their usual bag of tricks, right? Oh, look at these liberals and their stupid pro-choice memes. It doesn't work because your own people are for that, right? Like, they might not like these people. Doesn't mean they don't agree with them on that point. They were never able to find a way to articulate we're going to move forward together in a post-Roe world with an anti-abortion agenda. That was never most of the Republicans, not even most of the MAGA people. That was always this small but very reliable voting bloc of evangelical Christians. That was never anything like a majority of the party, probably even less than showed up in polling, because as we can see from these results, there are a lot of people on the right who are just not going to answer pollsters honestly on questions like this. But when they go in the voting booth, it's a different question. It's a different matter.
I mean, if you look at it, honestly, the group of people who won this election for the Democrats was, more than anyone else, the deplorables themselves. Because if you looked at the maps of these states, the rural counties were still coming in Republican, but by nowhere near the margin they're used to.
Right.
The GOP was winning those rural counties 60-40.
And that's
not 70-30, 80-20.
That's all Roe.
And that's all Roe.
There's no other
absolutely.
reason. There's no other reason for that. The Republicans, this is really their moment of truth, because 2024 is theirs for the taking. They need to figure out a position on abortion, and they need to finally walk away from Reaganomics. Those are the two things they need to do in 2024 what they could have done in this election. But all of the bad policy choices that they've been able to get away with for decades, all that came home to roost in this election. And it was really the Roe decision that triggered it.
Yeah, no. Yes. No doubt about that. And when you say that the 2024 election is theirs to lose, I think you're absolutely right about that too, because now Biden has wind at his sails, he thinks, right? Wind at his back. He's like, oh, I'm running now. And see, now is not the time when you can say, yeah, I'm planning on running. Now is the time where you have to shit or get off the pot. Like, now I'm planning on running becomes I'm running, because now is when...
In Biden's case, literally.
Well, yeah, exactly.
He's going to be relying on the latest adult diaper technology.
In his case, it would be shit or pull your pants down. Right. But now is the time when, like, other candidates would start getting in. They would start raising money. They would start, putting their campaign staffs together. And so now is the time when you really have to, like, if you are running, it's no longer, well, I'm thinking about it, I'm looking forward to it, it's my plan to do it. Now you actually have to decide to do it. And if Biden does it, right, then it is the Republicans' race to lose, because even post-midterm polling shows Biden is still at about 39%. Right. And if Republicans take the House, which seems at this point more likely than not, although it's getting closer and closer and closer, you're going to have a very difficult time passing anything else these next 2 years. And so it is the Republicans if they want it, but they're going to have to make some tough decisions in order to take it, because as this election proved, you're not just going to ride some anti-Democrat anger into office,
or even culture wars,
right? Or even culture wars
because of Roe. You lost the culture wars now. All the drag time story hours in the world don't make up for that Roe decision.
Let's take a question here. Do you think the Dems secretly hope the Republicans don't take the House? I'm assuming you mean do take the House. Do you think Democrats secretly hope the Republicans take the House so that there is no pressure for them to codify Roe, since clearly they don't want to? That's a good question, because it looks like even if Warnock wins, will have only added one Democratic senator, not 2. So they're still going to have the Manchin problem, or at this point it would be the Manchin or Sinema problem if Warnock wins and they get to 51. So that's still going to be a little bit messy. However, the case is going to be made very, very loudly that they have a mandate to do this now, right? And so that's not to say Manchin will move, but if they don't have a mandate to codify Roe after this, then I don't know what you're looking at, because this election was what it was because of that issue. So whether it gave them a sweeping majority or not, there's no doubt about it. The voters gave them a mandate to secure reproductive rights. And so it is going to be brutally difficult for them to not do that. May they hope that the GOP wins the House and gives them another 2 years to fundraise off it? Sure. I mean, that's possible. I don't know what's in their head, but I do know that they're going to have a hell of a time if they keep both chambers and Manchin starts dicking them around, or Sinema starts dicking them around. That's going to be quite something to see play out.
Because that's an issue their real base cares about.
Exactly.
The real base, the professional managerial class, they have health care through their jobs.
Exactly.
They're a long way from minimum wage. They can afford to send their kids to college. They don't give a fuck about any of that. All they care about are culture issues. All they care about is Roe.
And thank you, by the way, for the donation, Franklin. Much appreciated. Donald, grabbing by the pussy, Trump, the Clinton, Biden, Obama cabal still have control. Well, look, I mean, somebody asked us, it was Ricardo, one of our patrons, sent us a private message in response to last night's show asking, if they would be able to, rid themselves of Reaganism. And when I say Reaganism, what we really mean is Reaganism, Thatcherism, neoliberalism. That's really what it is. I mean, the Democrats are very much a party of Reagan also, even though he wasn't one of them. Will they be able to do that? Who knows? Who knows? I mean, it doesn't look good. That was what my article was about. It looks like we're just going to kind of, sleep our way through the end of this thing here is what it looks like to me, But there is a chance that happens under Democratic control unless the Republicans figure out a way to wrest it from them. And there is a way to do that. The Democrats are going to go into 2024 looking extremely weak. But they went into this race looking extremely weak, right? And so it's up to the Republicans. The ball is in their court.
That's what I'm saying. They need to figure out some kind of compromise on Roe that people can live with. They're not going to be able to go full on. No, we're just going to go back to Roe. They can't do that. Too much of their base would reject it. The 15-week standard is the best they're going to be able to do. Although, again, when you're talking about religious fanatics, who fucking knows? Like, it would not be surprising if the evangelicals just don't show up if they do that. So this is their bad karma on this issue coming back to haunt them. They lost their Rockefeller Republicans, their old base, when Reagan sold the party out to the evangelicals, and now that base is the Democrats. That's the Democratic Party, the Rockefeller Republicans. So you lost all those people. So now you're stuck with these fucking maniacs, and you're going to have a very hard time winning elections without them. And then the other part of the old Democratic base that is now Republican is that working class base. Reaganomics does not work for those people. You're going to have to come, Trump was talking in the right direction about onshoring and restoring our manufacturing base. But you're also going to have to find ways to relieve the burden on the public of college, of healthcare. These things have just spiraled out of control. The public is just being looted at this point, and they can't afford a middle-class life. You are going to have to formulate a response to that. Now, if the Republicans can find a response to that, nobody likes the Democrats. This was really an election of despair, where people voted. I said it on the live stream. You hear this a lot from African Americans. If you ask them why they vote for these shitbags like Clyburn, it's because they're terrified of the alternative. The whole public did that this time. Right. The whole public voted in the Democrats because they were just terrified of what would come after them.
This is an interesting comment here. Holly says, I have much more hope for the Republicans. They at least seem to fear their base. The Democrats have been taught to throw us under the bus. Yeah, that historically has been true. But in this cycle, the Republicans really took their base for granted. And the Republican base sort of took the Republican leadership for granted, too. Like, I feel like there was not really much communication going on there. Everybody was just wrapped up in what Milo was just saying to Tim Pool. It's time to own the libs. We are very angry. We're all very, very angry. We're all seeing red. We are all just pissed off at the way this country has just deteriorated in these past 2 years. And all of that is very legitimate anger. But I felt like the Republican base sort of trusted the Republican leadership to sort of harness that anger and direct it in a way that actually led to votes at the ballot box. And I think the Republican base was sort of relying, and I think that Republican leadership was sort of just relying on the base to make that translation themselves. Right? I think both the base and the leadership felt there's just so much anger in the air we can't possibly lose. And so they didn't bother running good candidates. They didn't bother coming up with a platform, right? Because who wants to do that, right? Ultimately, the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. Mitch McConnell loves that, right? Why do anything about that if you don't have to? So they all just felt that they could just ride this wave of anger into the midterms and blow the Democrats out. And politics is more complicated than that, right? You still have to block and tackle. You still have to do the fundamentals right, and they did not.
Well, they never offered an alternative, and what alternatives they were talking about were fucking terrifying.
Right, exactly. Right.
Cut it. Yeah, let's cut entitlements in a country where people are falling further and further behind.
Right.
And look, you can't just say, wow, that's crazy that they thought that. They've gotten away with that kind of shit for so long on culture war issues. That all worked until Roe. Roe is, pardon the expression, it's a trump card over all that shit, man. They need to find a resolution to Roe, or they're going to be in trouble even in 2024.
Heidi says, had to pop in just a super chat. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate that. I really appreciate the intelligent conversation you two have. The student debt relief grift was predicted by Bree. Well, thank you, Heidi, very much. And
we're going to be talking about that.
Yeah. In fact, why don't we do that now?
All
right. So Brianna Joy Gray hosted a writer named Jed Sugarman on her Bad Faith podcast. And Jed had written an article back in September called Biden's Student Debt Plan is a Legal Mess. And in it, he made the argument that Joe Biden was using the COVID emergency as justification for his executive order relieving student debt, as opposed to invoking the Higher Education Act of 1965, which would have been a much more legally sort of foolproof argument to make. And now, obviously, with a Texas judge having just blocked student debt relief and applications are now frozen, there is widespread speculation that perhaps this was another Democrat boondoggle meant to drive youth turnout. And then the week after, we can't actually get you student debt relief. Right?
We tried.
So the theory is that Biden used a faulty justification for this executive order on purpose, thinking it would be struck down and that the banks would get off the hook, right? And that, meanwhile, the votes are already counted, so nothing you could do about it, right? Be angry. We'll win you back over in 2 years somehow. There will be some scary thing that you're going to have to vote for us anyway, so fuck you, right? That's that. Brianna Joy Gray
we'll send out our
page.
army of flying monkeys on social media to call you a right-wing, horrible person if you don't vote for us, and you'll lose all your friends and possibly get fired if you speak against us in the heat of the election.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. So Brianna Joy Gray is one of these people who's on this page, and so she had Jed on to talk about this. And here's how that conversation went. We have a brief clip.
The Biden administration could lose this 9-0. And instead of running against the Roberts court.
Okay, so I'm sorry. right there. He's saying the Biden administration could lose this 9-0, meaning in the Supreme
Right,
Court. which means
9-0.
Even the
Yeah.
liberals can be like, no,
Yeah.
this is wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So there you have it.
Thinking it's a win, I think it'll be an embarrassment that actually frustrates, that alienates the base, because it says you were incompetent, and that's my real concern here. Is I have to be. This experience of finding this problem has made me a little more cynical about what the goals are here.
I love that ear-to-ear
welcome to the
smile
club.
just slowly forms on her face as he's saying that.
about
her.
what
Look at
what the goals are here. Is that
Welcome to the club.
well, yes. I mean, I wish I could say that I wasn't pessimistic when I wrote this piece, because the subtitle was optimistic. There's time to fix it. There is time to fix it. But I guess if there's anyone out there who's working in the Department of Education, and you left your job somewhere, you left your job in some other education department in some state, or you left a job in the private sector because you wanted to get things done, but you weren't so worried about getting a couple more purple state Democrats into some districts in 2022. If you want to listen to how to actually get student debt relief done, take one more year, get it done through the Higher Education Act, and you have a shot at it winning.
To be clear, the Higher Education Act would allow the full scope of the $10,000 to $20,000 and for everybody under 125, like the plan that Biden set out now.
I mean, honestly, there's nothing in it that requires means testing.
Or more. Like obviously I want the whole shebang. So that's another reason to want to pursue that route for those of us who are still holding out for full debt cancellation.
That's right. Brianna, I've got a lot of progressives wrote to me privately or said there were a lot of progressives who were mad that I was saying this. Like I had some secret that, you think that there isn't a conservative lawyer who already saw all this, but they don't want to write it in the Atlantic because they're holding on to it. The conservatives are probably mad that I'm suggesting the Higher Education Act, but progressives said, thank you.
All right, so there you have it. Now, what's interesting about that conversation is Jed says you might have a shot at passing it under the Higher Education Act, which implies that even that might not be a sure thing.
I think because the court is weighted so heavily conservative, I think that's how he's thinking. At this point, I've read his article. And if you look at the outcome, he got a lot of pushback on that article, as he indicates in the interview. But the proof is in the pudding. You have to listen to the person whose predictions wind up matching up with reality, right? A court just stopped this. And now, having read the article, he makes a good case, because under this act, which was passed in response to 9/11, it grants the executive the authority to cancel debt on the basis of people having been affected by a national emergency. Now, that is very specific. And up to this point, when other emergency measures related to COVID have gone to the Supreme Court, they have been very skeptical of that argument. They struck down the eviction moratorium, and they struck down the mask and vaccine mandates, arguing that you could not do this under the premise of a national emergency. So if they did not accept the premise of an eviction moratorium, if they didn't accept the premise of a vaccine mandate, if this goes to the Supreme Court, which it inevitably seems like it will, they're going to accept the premise that you can do blanket student debt relief because of how people have been affected by COVID. And he says in the article, the only way you could maybe get that through would be if you so severely means tested it that it was specifically targeted at people who could demonstrate that they lost money because of COVID specifically. A lot of people came out ahead on COVID. Those people would also be getting student debt relief. So if you're doing it on this basis, that's a very weak legal grounding. And I have to say, very often with Democrats, at best, people who are in the, Democrat bubble, At best, they will accuse them of stupidity and incompetence. You're barking up the wrong fucking tree, man. This is exactly what they wanted. At this point, looking at all of the legal arguments, they're not that stupid. They're not that stupid. People working at that level of the legal game, they're working in the Office of Legal Counsel for the White House, didn't see that coming. Come on, man. That's fucking bullshit. They chose to do it this way so that it would not pass. There is no other explanation for why you would pick a route that is so dicey. And really, when you look at how the Supreme Court has ruled thus far on pandemic relief measures, pretty much bound not to get through that court. Pretty much bound to. So why would you not go with the more solid legal argument? So at this point, yes, I agree with that. I believe it was a setup to juice turnout for the midterms. They knew this wasn't going to go through court, and then they can blame it on conservative judges.
Right. Yeah. So this is a screenshot of a Brianna Joy Gray tweet from someone who calls themselves Don Moynihan. All right. Let's see. Professor, McCourt School, Georgetown. Oh, a Georgetown University professor. He thinks he's owning her here by pulling up another screenshot of Brianna saying that Biden has the authority to cancel student debt via executive order, but wasn't doing it, right? And so he thinks it's a big own. He says, then Biden clearly has the power to cancel all student debt. Why isn't he doing it? Now, Biden pretending to cancel student debt when he clearly doesn't have the power to do so is the ultimate act of political deception. Now, this is another liar. If he is a professor at Georgetown University...
when you see that, it's like, is he really that fucking stupid? He's a law professor. Right. He doesn't understand that there's an alternate route. Come on.
Yeah. And so Brianna here is too nice to him.
Was he trying to get a fucking job at the Democratic establishment?
Right, exactly. She says, when you literally don't know what the fuck you're talking about, I'm honestly just embarrassed for you. No, Brianna, I think you're being too nice there. You were perceptive enough to know that Biden was lying about this from day one. You ought to be perceptive enough to know that this guy is a lying little shitbag as well. Because if he's a professor, I mean, he obviously knows that this argument, that these two tweets posted next to each other do not constitute an own. Because the problem is not that Biden doesn't have the power to do this. It's that he has to do this in a way that is legally sound that will hold up in court, which he could have done, but chose not to do. Then the question at that point becomes, why did he choose not to do it? Why did he choose the legally shaky path over the more legally sound path, right? And by the way, what all of this should tell people is that the obvious solution here is just to postpone all student debt repayment indefinitely. Right. Because nobody has challenged Biden's authority to do that, right? Right now, that moratorium expires December 31st, 2022. So about 6 weeks from now. Nobody has said you can't do that.
Go full second foundation, man. Put it 10,000 years into the future.
Boom. That's it. Problem solved. Problem solved. No one can challenge you on that because no one has challenged Biden on this. No one's saying, oh, you can't extend. No, he can. He's the president. He has the authority to do that. If he didn't, surely they would have intervened to try and stop him. They obviously have a hard on for this issue. So why wouldn't they have intervened? Right? So that's what you do. You say all student debt is due in 1,000 years.
Right. And then you could still try to get it cleared under the Education Act, but it won't matter if it passes or not.
Right, because in the meantime, everybody's covered. Everybody's covered. But that's the thing. Everybody is covered on all student debt, all federal student debt. And they don't want that. They want to skim $10,000, $20,000 if you're on a Pell Grant and get payments coming back in, right? They want the money back. So they can't do what we said is the obvious, sensible thing to do. If you were concerned about people being crushed by student debt, yes, that's the obvious move. Their concern is, how do we gin up a youth vote before a midterm? And how, on the other hand, do we guarantee the banks their money? Right? That's the balancing act they had to do. Right. And it looks like that balancing act is not going to be much of a balancing act. Turns out the student debt relief may have just been a big jerk-off move.
It was a big jerk-off.
And now the banks are going to get paid. They got their senators. And the working people get nothing.
Look, this was another prediction that I did make, but even I did not realize how fucking foul these people were going to be. They always, I said they were going to cancel student debt before the midterms, that they were saving it for that. But I never suspected
that it wouldn't be student debt relief.
That I didn't see coming, man. That they were going to use a way that was bound not to pass legal muster and then blame it on the courts. That's why I'm saying you can't call these people stupid. They're not stupid. If you think they're stupid, you're misunderstanding your enemy. They're very fucking smart.
Yeah, they pulled some bullshit with the eviction moratorium also. They deferred to the CDC. They told the CDC they should extend it. Right? Rather than pass a law extending it when they had the House and the Senate. Right? They said, well, we really encourage the CDC to use their brains here and extend this, right? They basically deferred to an apolitical agency to do politics for them, because for them to have to do politics is this sort of irreconcilable conflict between doing what's right for people and keeping the money coming in for the financial interests that not only fund them, but that prop up the entire system, right? I mean, it's not as simple as they give Nancy Pelosi money so she does them favors. Yes, that's part of it, but it's also way bigger than that, right? It's way bigger than that. And this is the problem, going back to our first segment, that Democrats and Republicans are both going to have to deal with in some way if they want to win. All right. Let's go to our buddy Colin from the Indie News Network. Hey, Colin, thank you for the $5, my friend.
Thank you,
I appreciate that very much. We'll have to hit you back on your show. I can't stand how libs are saying we should blame the judges and not the Dems. That's like you setting off the bomb and blaming the dynamite. Yeah, I mean, look, we knew there were conservative judges, right? That's not a new thing, especially in Texas, right? What was the conservative judge in Texas? He struck down the ACA, and then that lost at the court, at the high court, right? But yeah, of course they're out there. And look, they knew that these lawsuits were coming. They knew these lawsuits were coming because this is about banks getting money versus not getting money. Right? This is not about a deadline being extended. Everybody trusts Joe Biden's going to figure out a way to get the banks paid. Right? I mean, Joe Biden is nothing if not reliable for that. Okay? Yeah. But he's stiffing him out of $10,000 from these bastards who they want it. They want it. And so there were going to be legal challenges to this, obviously. Right? Executive orders, by definition, are vulnerable to legal challenge because they are a workaround to the way things generally are supposed to go. So you're going to be challenged on that. And you have, obviously, a responsibility to set it up in a way that defends you against these legal challenges. That's why you have the staff, right? And so the only reasonable explanation, I agree with Russell, and I agree with Brianna Joy Gray, is that they wanted this to fail.
They didn't want it to pass. Yeah. They gave their donors in the loan business a nice foot rub, and they juiced turnout for the midterms.
And at this point, what are we going to say? Oh, they're going to pay for this. No, realistically, they probably won't.
No, they're not. They're not. They're gonna tell their fucking brain dead idiot moron base, oh, that's why you need to vote for more Democrats. You know, it's like a drug dealer who tells you, just shoot more heroin and you're gonna be better. It's good. Your drug addiction is going to clear up. They that base, they're going to keep coming out, and now they're chipping into the Republican advantage because of Roe, which is, again, all of this is a great setup for the Republican Party to take power, but they need to transform. They need, in a post-Roe world, they need to change the party. They need to become a party that supports abortion rights within certain limits and that can articulate an economic program that has broad appeal to the working class that is now their new base.
Yeah, no, I think that's very well said. All right, well, we have a break here between this segment and our final one. We wanted to thank our Patreon supporters here for supporting this show. You can go to patreon.com/DoDissidents and join this scroll yourself. We appreciate all the help that we can get. Helps us keep the show going, helps us do as many of these streams as we are able to do. Like I said, we are planning on coming back on Tuesday nights for the Donald Trump campaign announcement. It's way back up in the chat now. I'm not going to be able to find it. But Anis, who was with us all week last week for our midterm previews and election night, said that Milo actually wrote an article praising Anis Shivani's rejection of identity politics. So Anis, you put out a big essay about identity politics a few years back. I don't remember what the dates are on this. I did read that. You sent it to me back when I first interviewed you a few years ago. And you said that Milo actually had some really kind words for you. I would love if you could find that blog post. He says Milo praised him in a blog. That would be great to cover. I would love to have you back for a segment. We could talk about that because that would be wild.
We're gonna reach out to Milo and put him on the show. That'll make a liar out of me. I had a shit lib a couple of years ago accuse me of well, I'm really looking forward to when you have Milo Yiannopoulos on your show. And I'm like, that's not who we're looking to platform.
I honestly, now that he is...
it would be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, I think it would be really interesting.
I wouldn't put him on to be like, hey, about that pedophilia thing. Well,
yeah, no, obviously.
Stuff,
but he's not talking that shit anymore. You could tell, in fact, Ricardo
he's
posted in the
humbled.
chat, his accent sounds a little different. And his accent does sound different. It absolutely does, and I think that's just because he's not on in the way that he used to be, right?
Yeah.
The whole shtick
you're
is not
driving
there.
Sammy to madness here. You fucked up, man. You fucked up big
No.
time. Bro.
I fixed it.
You
Didn't I
fucked
fix
up.
it? Didn't I? First of all, Sammy's name is in there twice, so you should be happy about that. But I'm pretty sure I fixed it.
The name's
Yeah,
so
let's
nice.
watch it
We
again.
said it twice.
Unless I forgot to save it. Maybe I forgot to save it. I did fix it this afternoon because I read your comment, but I didn't actually. Maybe I didn't save the edit. So I will look into that. All right. Let's see. Bippin, Ann P, Ann H, Matt B, Jody S, Gina G. All right, we're getting toward the end of the scroll here. Let me see if I put Sammy H in there twice. Let's see. Sam G, Carlos E, Lariat. Come on, let's go with the scroll. Let's keep it going here. Keep it moving. Ah, you did. See, I didn't save it. Good eye, Sammy.
Twice.
Good eye. I'll make sure I fix that for you.
Interns. We need interns.
Listen, I always thought Milo was, this got me, actually, this didn't get me into as much trouble as I thought I did back when we did the Alex Jones episode, and I said I thought Alex Jones was a great talent, even though I don't like what he stands for. I can give him props for that. I think Milo is the same way. I thought Milo was very, very quick on his feet. He was very fast. He was very witty. He was on occasion even very funny.
Yeah.
And now he's humbled. Yeah, but that was so great about that segment is you saw the clown with all the makeup off having a really red pill conversation with a guy who's still in the matrix, right? He's still like, oh, no, we're going to have investigations. We're going to stop Biden's agenda. And he's like, hey, dumbass, hey, nerd, this isn't about any of that. It never was. Trust me, I was there. Right? All right, everybody. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to put our patron scroll up on the screen once again. We want to thank everybody for joining here. Sammy H., you're going to get your last double thank you here on the Patreon feed. But yeah, if you can go to patreon.com/DoDissidents. We had our first stream on Rumble this evening, so we are on Rumble if you want to go subscribe over there. And also, if you would like, you can go to our Substack, DoDissidents.substack.com, and subscribe there, because there you get all of our videos, audio podcasts, and articles as we drop them. So that's always a good thing to do. To keep in touch. Russell, I see some more comments are coming in. Do we have anything else to address, or are we out of here?
Yeah, some people are very divided on the beep. You know what I think we should do? Why don't we sample Meg Ryan coming, and when Harry met Sally, we'll use that.
Oh, that's a great idea. I like that.
Just
That's
throw
a good
that in
idea.
whenever we need a beep.
Yeah, doing the
Put
fake
that in.
orgasm at Cass's Deli.
yeah.
That I like. Yeah, that and I
That's
can get
it.
behind. That's not a bad idea. I don't know how you thought of that quickly. It says something about you, but but I like.
It's my admiration for Groucho Marx, man. They said to him once, "You're so quick on your feet." He said, "I'm 5 times faster than you think. The first 4 I can't use."
Yeah, right. There you go. Exactly. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. Oh, Tuesday night, we should be back here. I just got to find the stream that's reliable. And if it is, we're going to be Mystery Science Theatering the Donald Trump campaign announcement. So
Holly likes that idea.
she likes that idea. All right.
You
Good.
dirty, dirty girl.
Excellent. All right, we will implement that. All right, so yeah, we're going to be doing a Mystery Science Theater routine on the Trump campaign announcement on Tuesday night. We'll have a time for you when we get a time that he's going on, which we still don't know. But we'll have that information for you as soon as we find out. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night. Be safe. Be well. Bye-bye.
Please clap.